Welcome back, grade 9 students of St. Paul American School Clark, to today's Explainer. Today, we're diving into the exact production title, G9, Biology, U09, L03, Excretory System, and Digestive and Endocrine Systems. We're setting the stage right now to explore how the human body acts as this absolutely incredible self-regulating machine. It's this incredibly complex network where every single system is perfectly fine-tuned to keep you alive, fueled, and functioning. So, let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our agenda for today. We're going to start with our explainer objectives, move right through the excretory system, digestion and nutrition, the endocrine system, and development and birth, before wrapping the whole thing up with a quick formative check. This structure is really going to help us connect all the dots between these distinct biological systems.
Section 1. Explainer Objectives, the body's regulators and builders.
To be totally clear on our learning targets today, we have a very strict focus. First up, we're going to understand kidney structure and osmoregulation. Second, we'll trace the path of food and how that relates directly to nutritional health. Third, we're going to analyze exactly how our hormones regulate blood sugar. And finally, we will map out the incredible stages of human development and birth.
Section 2. The Excretory System, Filtering and Balancing. Deep within the body, we find the kidneys, with the ureters leading straight down to the bladder at the base. What's truly amazing here is the scale compared to the output. An adult human kidney is only about 12 centimeters long. That's roughly the size of a computer mouse. Yet these two small organs are absolute powerhouses. Every single day, they produce about 170 liters of filtrate from your blood. But because they're so incredibly efficient at reabsorbing what the body actually needs, they only produce about 1 to 2 liters of actual urine. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is what happens when we take a vertical slice right through that kidney. Distinct layers are suddenly revealed. The outer, brownish region is called the cortex. This is where the critical initial filtration of small molecules from your blood happens. Just inside that is the reddish inner area, which is called the medulla. The medulla's main job is actually to control the overall water content of your blood. From there, the resulting urine flows down through those distinct pyramid shapes into a central white area called the pelvis, before finally exiting down the ureter.
But how does that filtration actually work? Well, it happens on a totally microscopic level, inside about 1 million tiny tubules called nephrons. It's a complex, multi-step flow. It all starts in a cup-like shape called the Bowman's capsule, where the blood is first filtered. Then, the fluid moves into the proximal convoluted tubule, where this amazing, selective reabsorption occurs. Literally, the body takes back 70% of the water and all of the glucose it just filtered out. Next, down in the loop of Henle, even more water is reabsorbed. By the time the fluid reaches the distal convoluted tubule, specific salts are reabsorbed. And finally, it travels down the collecting duct. This is where the final, absolutely crucial water balance is locked in, before the fluid officially becomes urine.
This final balancing act brings us to a really vital concept called osmoregulation. It's basically the process of maintaining the perfect balance between water and salts in our body fluids. Imagine you're sweating on a really hot day. Your blood becomes more concentrated, right? Well, special receptors in a part of your brain called the hypothalamus detect this change immediately. The hypothalamus sends a message straight to the pituitary gland, which then releases a chemical messenger known as antidiuretic hormone, or ADH for short. ADH travels in the blood down to the kidneys and forces that collecting duct we just talked about to reabsorb a high volume of water back into the blood. The result? Your blood concentration returns to normal, and you produce a very small volume of highly concentrated urine.
Section 3. Digestion and nutrition, fueling the body.
Now that we've seen how the body filters out waste, let's look at how it takes in fuel through the digestive system. Humans have a two-ended, highly specialized digestive tract known as the alimentary canal. From the very moment food enters your mouth, it's on a journey through distinct specialized sections. It travels down the esophagus, drops into the stomach, and eventually winds its way into the incredibly long small intestine. And it's here, in the small intestine, where the magic of absorption really happens. Tiny, finger-like structures called villi pull all those essential nutrients right into the bloodstream.
To get those nutrients small enough to actually be absorbed, the body relies on two distinct methods. The fundamental difference here is crystal clear. Mechanical digestion is entirely physical. It's the chewing in your mouth or the churning happening in your stomach, breaking the food into smaller physical pieces. Chemical digestion, on the other hand, uses biological catalysts called enzymes to break those smaller pieces of food down on a molecular level into their basic constituent parts.
Of course, this whole system only works well if we put the right fuel into it. Let's look at what happens when nutrition fails. Kwashiorkor is a condition caused specifically by insufficient protein, despite a high carbohydrate intake, which leads to a swollen belly and poor brain development. Marasmus is a total energy deficiency, meaning a lack of all food groups, and this results in tight skin and poor muscle development. Anorexia involves a psychological refusal to eat, leaving the person skeletally thin, and bulimia is characterized by habitual vomiting. Now, while a person with bulimia might maintain a normal body weight, the constant presence of acidic stomach contents causes severe tooth erosion.
Section 4. The endocrine system, hormonal control.
So how does the body manage all this fuel once it's inside? That brings us to the endocrine system, which uses hormones as chemical messengers to maintain internal homeostasis. A prime example of this hormonal control involves the pancreas and its absolutely critical role in monitoring your blood sugar or glucose levels. Your body constantly needs glucose for energy, but having too much or too little in your blood is highly dangerous.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how the body handles this balancing act. Think of it as two opposing forces keeping everything perfectly in check. When you eat a big meal and your blood sugar spikes high, the pancreas secretes the hormone insulin. Insulin essentially commands the liver to grab that excess glucose and store it away safely as a substance called glycogen. But what happens a few hours later when your blood sugar drops low? The pancreas steps in again, but this time it secretes a totally different hormone, glucagon. Glucagon tells the liver, hey, we need energy, stimulating it to convert that stored glycogen right back into glucose and release it into the blood.
Now, you might be wondering about diabetes, so let's pause our explanation for a moment. This system of blood sugar regulation is where a very common area of confusion arises. So I want to ask you directly to encourage some active retrieval here. Are type 1 and type 2 diabetes the exact same condition? Take a quick second to think about what's actually failing in the system we just discussed. The answer is a definitive no. While both do result in blood sugar issues, the mechanics are totally different. Type 1 diabetes is a production failure. The body simply does not produce insulin. Type 2 diabetes, however, is a response failure. The body is producing insulin, but the cells have lost their ability to effectively respond to it.
Section 5. Development and Birth. Building Life.
Now let's shift focus to our final biological topic, human development before birth. The incredible journey of fetal development is mapped out across 3 distinct periods called trimesters. In the first trimester, we have an embryo that is intensely vulnerable to outside influences as all of its core structures begin to form. Moving into the second trimester, the embryo is now officially considered a fetus, undergoing extremely rapid brain development. It can even move its little fingers and toes and make facial expressions. By the time we reach the third trimester, development has progressed so much that the fetus can actually survive outside the uterus with medical assistance.
Let's move to and see how this builds into the physical process of birth itself, which is delineated into 3 clear stages. First up is the dilation stage, where the cervix opens to allow the baby to eventually leave the uterus. This is followed by the expulsion stage, where the mother actively contracts her abdominal muscles to help push the baby through the vagina. And finally, the whole process concludes with the placental stage. This is where the placenta, the amazing organ that sustained the baby for all those months, detaches and leaves the mother's body.
Section 6. Formative check and recap, putting it all together.
All right, let's lock in what we've learned today. Here is your challenge, blending our earlier systems together. Which specific hormone, secreted by the pituitary gland, regulates our body's water balance by stimulating the collecting duct in the kidneys to reabsorb more water?
If you said antidiuretic hormone or ADH, you are absolutely correct. To quickly recap our required concepts today, the excretory system uses the kidneys and microscopic nephrons to filter waste and manage osmoregulation. The digestive system uses the alimentary canal to process our fuel, both mechanically and chemically. The endocrine system utilizes hormones like insulin and glucagon to maintain a strict homeostasis of our blood sugar. And human development takes us through 3 vital trimesters of growth, concluding with the 3 distinct stages of birth. Every single one of these complex mechanisms operates silently inside you right now. I'll leave you with this provocative thought to ponder. Given how perfectly insulin relies on the liver, or how ADH relies on the kidneys collecting duct, imagine how a failure in just one of these tiny microscopic connections could cascade, affecting the entire functioning of the human machine. Keep that interconnectedness in mind as you continue your studies. Thanks for watching this explainer, and I'll see you next time.